Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have you here today. Now I have come back with a delicious bread pudding recipe. By now you've figured out that I love bread pudding, so this may or may not be my last one. But anyways, for today's video, my inspiration came from Walt Disney World. It came from a restaurant called Trails End that is in the Cabins of Fort Wilderness, and it is a blueberry croissant bread pudding, and it is absolutely divine. I have been on the hunt for this recipe and have not been able to find one that even like somewhat levels up to it. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna make it myself. I topped it with a delicious bourbon sauce, which we'll also be making today. Now you can serve this for a yummy brunch with the bourbon sauce, or you can serve it for dessert with a scoop of ice cream and the bourbon sauce as well. Regardless, it is so delicious. You are gonna be so happy you made this. So far, every single time I've served it, it disappears so fast. There are no leftovers at all, which is always a good sign, my friends. Last but not least, for this dessert, I just want to point out that you do not need to use any fancy croissants. I grabbed some cheap Costco croissants. They cost me $4.99, people, and I could have made 2 servings with this, okay? 2 servings. So that's all you'll need, and don't forget a nice bourbon. You will need a bourbon for the bourbon sauce. You can also replace it with a different alcohol of your choice. I really love how bourbon pairs with this recipe, and I will explain why as we get started. And that is all. So let's get started. Rate the dessert.
10 out of 10.
11. 11, I like it.
Great.
Give me a number.
I don't give a shit. 1 through 10?
1 through 10.
I'll give you 10.
A 10!
Honestly, I give it a 10.
Oh yeah, love you. Okay, so we are going to get started by cutting our croissants into 1-inch cubes. You're going to want about 18.5 ounces of croissants. I always like to weigh my bread and each of my ingredients on a scale before using them. Weighing your ingredients will result in a more accurate recipe. I'll also be listing the grams for each of these ingredients for those that will be weighing on a scale. Once you've cut them all, we are going to toss them onto a baking sheet for about 10 minutes just to dry them out. Now you can always use old bread for this if you have bread that's already nice and dry, but I prefer to just dry out my fresh bread in the oven since I tend to buy all of my ingredients right before I make something. You're going to bake this at 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes, and in the meantime, we will work on our custard. Now for the custard, grab a large bowl, toss in 5 large eggs, 3/4 of a cup of white sugar, and 3/4 of a cup of dark brown sugar. We are also going to add 3 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste. I absolutely love this stuff. I love the taste of having actual vanilla beans inside my dessert, but you can also use vanilla extract for this if that's what you have on hand. Then we'll toss in 1/2 teaspoon of salt and give that a light whisk until the ingredients are fully combined. All right, that looks good. So we are going to pour in 4 cups of heavy cream. Yep, I said it, 4 cups of heavy cream. Now, heavy cream is a huge key to a delicious bread pudding in my book. It's thicker and more decadent than milk and whipping cream, and I feel like it just provides the most delicious taste and the perfect texture in a bread pudding. Now, we'll give that a good whisk to ensure that the ingredients are fully combined so that we can begin to add our croissant cubes. Once you've taken your croissant cubes out of the oven and let them fully cool down, you can then begin tossing them into your custard mixture. You'll want to do this little by little in about 3 to 4 portions. You'll want to fold the breadcrumbs in gently after each new addition, really just making sure that they are nice and soaked in the custard. Once you've added all of your breadcrumbs and they are fully submerged in the custard, you are ready to cover it up and let it sit overnight. Now the truth is, you can let it sit for a couple of hours instead, but I truly prefer to give the bread as much time as possible to absorb all of the custard because the heavy cream is thick and it honestly just makes for a more decadent bread pudding. Now this is our bread pudding after I let it sit overnight, and you can tell it has absorbed just about all of the custard, and any extra custard that hasn't been absorbed we'll be using as well. Next, we are going to pour this mixture into a casserole dish. Before we do this, I'm going to grab a stick of butter and butter the inside of the dish well, making sure to get the sides and corners. I'm using a glass baking dish that I purchased off Amazon. It is 9 by 13 inches in size. I got it for a pretty decent price, and I can list the link down below in case you're interested. You'll want to spread this mixture out evenly across the pan, and then we're going to top it off with some fresh blueberries. I usually like to add about 2 handfuls of blueberries, but if you're looking for a more prominent blueberry flavor, you can feel free to toss some more onto there. Bake your bread pudding for about an hour at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. While that is in the oven, we are going to make our bourbon sauce. For the sauce, we are going to start with a small saucepan over medium heat. We are going to melt half a cup of butter, and once it's fully melted, we are going to add 3/4 cup of dark brown sugar and mix it well until it's fully combined. I love the flavor of the dark brown sugar in this sauce because it pairs so nicely with the bourbon we're going to pour in at the end. Next, we'll add 1 cup of heavy cream, and I'm going to mix this until fully combined. And then I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now I'm going to crank up this heat to high so we can bring the sauce to a complete boil. As the sauce works its way up to a boil, you'll want to whisk it pretty often. Once it starts to boil, leave it under the heat for about 1 minute and then remove it from the heat. Once you remove it from the heat, immediately stir in the 5 tablespoons of bourbon and add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and stir until smooth. And there you have it, a yummy bourbon sauce. Now it's time to check on our bread pudding. As you can tell, it's looking nice and crisp on the edges, and it's ready to take out of the oven. After you've let the bread pudding cool a little bit, but the bread pudding is still nice and warm, lightly dust it with some powdered sugar. Now it's time to enjoy. Cut a slice of your bread pudding, top it with that delicious bourbon sauce, and have it for brunch or dessert with a yummy vanilla bean ice cream. Alright everyone, I hope that you love this recipe as much as I do. It is so delicious. If you do, make sure to snap a photo and tag me on Instagram. I'll list my Instagram handle down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and this video. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.